All right, so last time I essentially left off redesigning the Ferrari Enzo rear end in one iteration of this style, which I essentially thought was the most appealing to me. And just to give a little quick recap, but not to get too detailed into that, I kind of went with the homage style of the Ferrari GTO. I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring back the vertical twin taillights instead of the horizontal ones. We looked at a ton of rear ends of cars from different brands, kind of give them a quick critique and thought of what I liked, what I didn't like, and then essentially landed on going with a redesign of the Enzo, but with vertical twin taillights, just to kind of switch it up because we realized that it's so common, and then it looked really good on the Zonda, the Pagani Zonda. And again, since then I've been kind of cleaning up the design a little bit, coming up with other variations, and also looking at different like cars, different rear ends. And I actually like went on a side tangent of like thinking what's a nicer car, like what are some really nice cars that have really nice rear ends. And I also forgot that Ferrari actually did come up with a second version, sort of say, or a rebadged version of a Ferrari Enzo, which is essentially a redesign. And I don't think I mentioned this in my previous videos. I mean, when the MC12, the Maserati MC12, when it initially came out, I was really in love with it. I thought it was a lot cooler than the Enzo. In hindsight, I feel like the design didn't really age that well. There's certain features of it I like, but this just goes to show like this is what a redesign by Ferrari would have looked like. This is essentially the Ferrari Enzo, but with less of a Formula One theme involved. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you compare that to a Formula One car, even just the rear end, how much more the Enzo looks like a Formula One car than the MC12. But again, I thought it would be kind of cool just to share this almost forgotten relic of a supercar, which is the Maserati MC12. Here I kind of got ChatGPT to kind of make a collage of kind of comparable angles of the car, and you can kind of see like the wheelbase essentially is like the same thing, and even like the cockpit, the shape of the overall car is the same, but you know they added like a massive rear wing here. But overall, my critique is kind of similar as it was to other rear ends of cars. It's like it kind of doesn't make sense with, I don't know if you can see from the camera, but why they went with this like half arched gap over here. They did have, again, circular taillights in the MC12, kind of like this Ford GT, but again, I don't think they nailed it. The funny thing is, I just noticed when I was playing around with this design, I thought it'd be cool to add smaller lights at the bottom, just to kind of break up that dead space around that area. Also because the original GT, Ferrari GT, had some other lights at the bottom. I mean, these are square ones or rectangular ones, if you can see there. But now that I see it, I see that like the MC12 also had these kind of lights. They're obviously in different positions, but again, that's kind of a similarity there. But that kind of got me on this side tangent of like looking at other rear ends and thinking, what's a really nice looking rear end? And it was actually a lot more surprisingly difficult to find until I kind of stumbled across this Maserati concept car, which is, I believe, the Alfieri. I kind of forgot the name, but I think it's written over here. Anyways, so I thought this design is actually kind of nice in the sense that I feel like although this looks like this shape is a little bit random, it seems less random to me than, for example, these shapes that are incorporated into the rear end. Especially when you look at other cars, you're kind of like, what is this random shape? What is this random? Like a lot of these cars have these random shapes to kind of break up the dead space. And you can see it like especially in modern supercars. But I thought here, at first glance, it might look random, but this looks like a really nice duct, or some sort of exhaust duct, I guess, I'm assuming, because it's on the rear end of the car. And I thought if I were to incorporate some sort of, I guess, dead space filler, it would be something that looks like this. I mean, already at the front of the car, we do have these shaped ducts that, I mean, I don't have the photo with me or the previous drawings with me, but we do have these vents. They're very common with the Ferraris. So it kind of makes sense to incorporate this shape in the rear end too, just to break up some dead space if I wanted to. But I did then, like, as you can see, try to kind of incorporate that into this design. And the cool thing about it is technically from Maserati. So it is, again, and obviously Ferrari owns Maserati, and it is so in line with the Italian theme and the overall company. You can say it's kind of a bit of a stretch, but it is not really when you realize that, like, you know, Maserati had their own version of the Ferrari Enzo. So and this car actually never came out, but if you look online and you search kind of like nice looking rear ends on cars, this car sometimes does actually come up, and it's a shame that they never brought it into production. But another thing that I like about this is that it has some nice curves to it. I feel like if the car is super angular, it doesn't become really timeless. For example, this angular Lamborghini Revuelto, I'm not sure if it's going to be considered beautiful. It's certainly going to be cool car. Like, arguably the Lamborghini Countach is one of those timeless angular designs, but it's not exactly as beautiful as, for example, the Miura. But anyway, so I kind of took this design that I landed on, and then I incorporated into, like, I try to add these like louver style vents, this, I guess, C-shaped vents into it just to see how it looks. But then I realized the reason I'm kind of hitting, like, here's some other drawings of that where I kind of shaded in the vents. But I kind of felt like the reason I'm not really, I've kind of hit a block is because it's really hard to picture it in 2D perspective. And I like to draw cars and expand my drawing skills in terms of 3 dimensions. But I'm like, okay, drawing a whole car each time just to see how it looks and just tweak things, it kind of seems a little bit tedious, and I don't know if it's the right approach. So then I just started like doodling essentially rear ends, just the rear ends of the car, with these 2 dimensions involved, 2-dimensional drawings like in mind, I mean. And I thought this is kind of a cool, I don't know if like designers do this or not, I'm sure they do, but it's like, why draw the whole car if you're just trying to see how roughly the rear end would look from a 3D perspective? And these were very rough sketches for me late at night. And then I thought maybe I should make a video on this because before I continue doing more. And so today I'm kind of going to attempt to do that. I did say this will be a short recap, but it is, I'm already like 7-8 minutes into this video. But I did want to kind of illustrate, like, it's hard to see, like, as you can see, there's very subtle differences between all these drawings. And it's kind of hard to picture it in 2D perspective, even if you have like kind of a photographical type of memory or brain where you can visualize these things that I like to think I can. But when it comes to the tiny subtle differences, it's hard to really visualize. So I thought, like, what better than to just do a perspective drawing of the rear ends. And so I kind of thought I'd do that in this video. Again, I apologize if my head's gonna get in the way. I do have to like change my setup and maybe change the camera. But I tried going, like, for example, here, this was my last iteration of it, and I kind of try to incorporate a little bit more curves into the design. If you don't know how the front end is going to look and the side view, that's in my previous videos. I pretty much am very settled on the front end design. I did like a whole bunch of videos on it. Side view is pretty much complete as well, whereas it's fine tuning the rear end that I've kind of had difficulty, because I don't want to just, you know, put some shapes together and like create some filler panels that I see a lot of supercars do. And I just feel like, for lack of a better term, that's lazy. But having said that, I've noticed how difficult the challenge is to make the car look beautiful kind of from all angles. So again, I'm gonna do this video in one take, so I might botch this up because I'm trying to not put my head in the camera. And it's also a little bit more uncomfortable drawing on camera than just like quietly in person. But yeah, I did also here go with like different, like, I tried to do non-circular taillights, but I just feel like if you're doing a Ferrari Enzo redesign, it's already kind of a big departure from the original design to go with vertical twin taillights instead of horizontal. And a lot of people could probably be like, no, you made the wrong move. But I feel like that is the right move, but I don't want to depart too much more from that. I mean, you could really go crazy with the design if you're trying to depart from circular taillights. But so I do think the twin taillights is probably the right choice. So yeah, so again, I'm just gonna try to make another iteration of this and kind of play around with the height. I did bring the tail end of the car a lot closer to the rear wheel. But so anyways, I'll just draw something here. Hopefully it shows on camera. I'll probably, yeah, this should show. Anyways, I start with like kind of a oval shaped wheel, assuming the perspective is going to this way to the point of where the car comes closer together. But already I see like I should probably draw on this wheel more closer this way. Luckily I can erase these because I won't have space on that side. So first move is already botched, but anyways, so in this I guess in this design I'm trying to incorporate something where I keep those twin taillights either in this panel or sticking out. I'm kind of trying to think of like what the gap here should be, how thick, how thin, the height of the whole thing, but it's hard to visualize unless you actually start drawing. So this is going to be roughly the wheel, and then the body of the line is going to go, the body of the car is going to go that way, and then roughly we're going to have, let's just say the shape of the car go this way. I kind of want to make it more round than angular, but I know that like angular will also look good. This is just one version where I'm just going to go with something more round. So for example, it might be round and angular, so maybe I'll keep this corner really angular, but the rest of the car might be like round like that. I am going to keep that dip in the center. I'll just draw the center line roughly there. There'll be a dip there. Again, this is very rough for me to like kind of get an idea. Again, I'm also practicing perspective drawing, so I'm definitely going to get some lines wrong, but this is a rough idea for me to like see how the car will look as opposed to a 2D perspective. Hopefully this is going to be showing it. There you go. Glad I double checked there. But anyway, so it's gonna be like roughly like there. I'm gonna try to incorporate a crease there. Again, if you recall, I'm also gonna be, let me just show you what the end goal of the car is gonna be from the front. That was in previous videos, but I'll just kind of bring this perspective into the video as well. The goal is to kind of create the back end of this car. Pretty much the front and the sides already been like finalized, minus some tweaks. But yeah, I'll just keep that, I guess, somewhere in reference of the frame, or I'll put it back as necessary. Anyway, so maybe I'll just put it here. Anyways, so yeah, with that in mind, the car is going to be kind of, it's going to have some angular lines over here. Again, like I said, this is very rough. Later on, I did buy this drawing light box, which I just recently discovered exists. Got this off Amazon for like 13 bucks. I honestly didn't know this existed until like a week ago. Previously, I would just try to get a glass, put a lamp underneath, and then anyways, this is how new it is. It's like super cheap, but this helps if later on you want to place a piece of a fresh sheet of paper and then like clean up your lines by drawing over it with the light coming up from underneath. I don't have a USB-C cable right now to plug it in to light it up, but I mean, some people already know about that probably, but again, I'm new to the game and I just discovered it. But anyways, in another video, I'll probably, when I'm finalizing this design, I'll probably use that tool. I'm surprised how cheap it was. Maybe there's probably better quality versions that are more expensive, but anyways, that gets the job done. Anyways, back to this. So I kind of outlined the rough shape here. I'm going with something bigger. As you can see, like this is one iteration where I'm not incorporating the vents. That's pretty much this one here. Just want to make sure it shows. Yeah. Whereas in this one, I'm kind of incorporating these vents into the design, borrowed or influenced by this Maserati Alfieri, because I thought this was actually really beautiful. Obviously, this is very different from what I want to do. I'm still keeping the center completely different. The light's going to be completely different. The size is going to be different. Essentially, the only thing that's I'm borrowing from this is a little bit of the curves into the design and that C-shaped vent, which we already have in the front. This is what I was referring to earlier. Like, we're already incorporating this shape. It's a very common duct or vent. This will essentially be like, let me just darken it real quick. That'll essentially be like a duct or vent. So, and I think that goes beautifully with this theme. So again, but I won't know until I kind of sketch it out and play around with it. That's the whole point of this video, to kind of play around with it and see where it goes. Again, I'm probably going to butcher the lines because this is also a drawing progress update video. And at some point, someone's probably thinking, shut up and start drawing again. But again, so anyways, some of the problems I have is I could start the vent from like right here, or which is like how this is gone, or I can kind of bring it in a little bit. Like I can, I guess, start it deeper in the panel, if that makes sense. But for the sake of this design, let's kind of make it bigger than these previous sketches. So let's start the vent like right at this crease. This is essentially a crease in the sheet metal, I guess. And then I will have that spoiler, that mini spoiler with the spoiler over it, because this is going to be the shape, the overall shape of the final shape of the spoiler. But there will be two spoilers, kind of borrowed again from the Enzo already has this, so maybe here it'll continue out, and then we'll have another, it'll be something like that. And then I guess there will be like a little place to keep the Ferrari prancing horse shape in there. And then I guess we'll just start with, see, this is the things that I have to kind of think in advance. If I'm going to be incorporating, I could incorporate these lights out into the duct or into the panel, or kind of stick it out somewhat from the panel. And I guess in the same theme as how the Enzo rear lights are kind of sticking out from the back, it's semi-protruding from the panel. So there's a lot of things this is why like I have to do many iterations, because it's hard to kind of picture those. But for this example, I'll kind of just maybe put them in the panel partially sticking out. So I guess roughly we'll keep this as reference to here. We'll kind of keep this roughly looking kind of like that. I do want to go with this little arch over there to kind of keep the duct there. It's going to be essentially another semicircular line there, semicircular line there. This is kind of going to be a crease. If you watch my previous videos, I am going to try to make the rear end also still look like a Formula 1 car, which is to have these like chunky Michelin type of wheels and like this thin axle kind of look, but just covered in sheet metal essentially. So that's still the look I'm going for, but then I'm also gonna to get rid of this dead space, maybe I'm gonna put this vent in there and borrow that style from the Maserati Alfieri, if that makes sense. But hopefully it'll show in this video and it won't be completely botched, but we'll see. It is hard to kind of even draw this in perspective because, again, I'm kind of new to this kind of style of drawing. So I'm practicing as I'm kind of designing. Again, the whole point is to make my skills match my vision, and for a really long time they haven't. And the whole point of this channel is to kind of change that and kind kind of document it as well. But anyway, so that's roughly the shape of, I kind of don't like how this goes too perpendicular. I kind of want this to be angled down a little more. That's where that light box will come in later, and I could draw over these multiple lines, but it'll kind of be something like that. Be something like that, yeah. Okay, then I guess I'll put the lights kind of right towards the center there. I guess I want them centered, so I'll make an imaginary, not imaginary, but I guess a line of roughly where the center is, kind of like here. I do also like how the two taillights are angled in. The top is more angled than the outside ones, so maybe I would make this line a little bit more angled, kind of like that, and then fit the light somewhere like that. That'll go more in. Again, hopefully this will come together. Otherwise, I'll have to redo this, but I think it's gonna look okay. The other thing is, if I'm gonna keep these two little lights, it's gonna be hard with this design because one will have to be stuck in the vent. These are the things you kind of have to think about in advance, but for now, let's just go with the vertical taillights. Again, I did want to keep that dip in the center there because the exhaust will go roughly there. And then so if that's the center, you'll have one exhaust there. You'll have an exhaust there. I think I like this. I'm not sure. I would definitely have to clean this up, but and then going by this, there would be like kind of a vent going there, roughly speaking. And then another, that's where the vent would kind of end, and this line would kind of hit this crease, roughly. Again, a lot of cleaning up to do after, but somewhere here is where the cockpit would go. And then maybe there'd be like a little triangular shape of where it would be like a vent, kind of like the top of a Formula 1 car. Again, that's in my previous videos. I'm not opposed to this. It is more circular, which I kind of like. As I described earlier, this is a lot more angular. This is a lot more curvy looking. It's a little more chunky. And then with regards to the spoiler, I would probably continue this line. I could put it forward, but just to make it cleaner and flow better, I'll like continue this line, and it'll probably go there. It'll probably, I mean, that's going to be essentially this. Yeah, so this is one iteration. Again, it's a very rough sketch, and I kind of talked a lot. I would do this probably in like 3 minutes on my own, but I'm not opposed to how this looks. Let's just tint these out a little bit more. Something like that. Again, I don't know, I kind of like it. Not against it, but maybe there's a cleaner version that I can do of not incorporating this vent. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you like the vent or not. But I do think it certainly kills up some of the dead space over here. But then again, there's nothing wrong with being very minimalistic looking. This is still arguably minimalist. But yeah, there's a lot of options still to go, a lot of variations. This was kind of like an update video of where I'm at so far. I don't think I perfected the rear end. Just as you can see, there's so many tweaks you can do. It's almost infinite, and that's why like my videos are coming out like every 2-3 weeks now, because the more I draw, the more kind of like paralysis by analysis I get, and the more I'm like, oh hey, what about this, what about that? And whereas I'm surprised that I settled on the front very quickly. But again, I'll keep doing this as kind of an update video. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully I'll be done this car soon, and then I can go back to the BMWs and everything else. But a lot more videos are to come. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.